Thanks for checking into the State of Basketball podcast, episode 11. I'm Adam Miller, and I'm here with Jaron Wilt each and every week. We're going to be bringing you the news and notes on all 11 Division I basketball schools in the state of Indiana, because in 49 states,
it's just basketball. So before we start, I just want to make sure that if you like our content, if you like our videos, whether it's you're listening on a podcast listening service or on YouTube, we please ask you to like and subscribe on YouTube. Save us as an automatic download on whichever podcast streaming service you listen to. It helps us continue to grow, right? Like we talked about last week, big deal. We've made it 10 episodes, but the more we are able to grow, the better content we're going to be able to provide to our listeners and our viewers. And really, we're about halfway through the season, our first season. And so far, we've appreciated everyone that we've interacted with on our social media channels, everyone who's listened and talked to us about the show. And we really just ask, like I said, like and subscribe to the channel. But also, if you like our content, share it with a friend. That's how Adam and I, we're good friends. We talk ball all the time. Most people have probably one or two other people that they talk ball with. Share it with them. Join our journey to be, the best podcast source, the best information source for all the Division I teams in the state of Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking the other day just about all the things that we want to do with the podcast. We just, some of those things are down the road things when we have bigger audience and have more resources to tap into. Hander right off, but we were just talking about all the cool things that we want to do with the show, but we need to get to a certain point to have connections, blah blah blah, become big enough to be able to pull those things off. So anything helps. I mean, we're literally not even asking for money.
No,
I sound like I'm asking for money, but I'm saying, I don't know, tell somebody about it. Just check in every once in a while. If you don't listen to every episode, that's fine. I get it. But, we're new to this whole thing. We just want to say thank you. And, we hope you stick around.
Yeah, absolutely. That's our big thing. Like Adam said, we've got big plans for the future of the show, and we can't do it without our viewers and listeners. So
we're pretty responsive on social media. If you tweet at us, send, or if you tag us in anything on any socials, we get back and we'll engage with you. So we like to engage with our listeners or anyone who follows us. Let us know you're out there.
Absolutely. And so I'm ready to get into the power rankings from last week. Are you ready, Adam?
I've never been more ready.
Never been more ready. Good to hear. So, got 11 teams, right? At the bottom, number 11, we've got Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis. Number 10, we've got Southern Indiana. They did drop back from 9. Valpo is currently sitting at 9, up from 10 from last week.
Got their first conference win.
Yes. Number 8 is Evansville, back from 7. Number 7 is Ball State, up from 8. So a little switcheroo there. Continuing with that switcheroo kind of trend, we've got number 6, Purdue Fort Wayne. Then number 5, who was previously number 6, Notre Dame.
A good road win this week.
Yes. And really our most static of the 11, our top 4, number 4, Indiana. Number 3 is Butler. Number 2, Indiana State. And number 1, again, Purdue.
Always and forever.
Maybe.
We'll see what happens. Rivalry week coming up. We'll see.
Exactly. They do have an in-state matchup coming up this week. So, really jumping into Ball State, they are currently sitting at 277 in KenPom. They're up from 284. They did take 2 tough, close losses with an 80-76 loss to Akron and a 77-72 loss at Toledo.
I want to get ahead of this. I was not at the game against Akron at home.
I thought you weren't stitious.
I'm not, but people are. I'm not stitious. I'm not even a little stitious.
You still have been present for 50% of Mike Lewis's home losses.
That's better than 66% of them. That's better than being there for 66%
but
of them.
that's still, it's still majority-ish, depending on how you look, depending on how that.
Depending on if you round up.
Yeah.
I think it's a standstill if you're voting. That's when you got to have the vice president come in and vote in the Senate.
And I'm the vice president in this case, and I'm voting.
You're biased. You're an alum. You're biased. You got to pick someone off the streets.
You can't. If you're watching, I'm wearing a Ball State shirt, but pretend that I didn't say that.
But I was not there. But they did lose just tough losses. I mean, they're playing well. Their starters are, at least anyway. Bashir Jihad just continues to roll. 27 points, 16 rebounds. That was tied a career high for him. And Jalen Anderson had 21 points and 5 assists. But where did they lose the game? If you're looking at this game, turnovers pretty bad. 13 turnovers, only forced 5, and they gave up 16 points off turnover.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that really both of these games came down to turnovers in one form or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just said, they lost the turnover battle against Akron. Looking at the Toledo game a little bit, rebounding was a big factor as well. Toledo did have 6 more second chance points off those offensive rebounds, and Ball State got doubled up in turnovers. They had 10 turnovers to Toledo's 5. Only gave up 3 more points on those turnovers, but when you add the 6 second chance points and the 3 additional points off turnovers, that's right there is more than what they lost by.
It's kind of the exact opposite of what I want a Ball State team to look like and what we thought it was going to look like and what it kind of did look like in the non-conference. So that stinks, but 2 close losses. I mean, they're sitting at 0-4 in the conference. That's not a good spot to be in,
especially after last year where they played their last game of the season, or the last 2 games of the season, vying to either tie or win the conference outright. So definitely a big, we'll say a second-year slump from Mike Lewis and the Cardinals. But you can't. The way basketball is, especially in college right now, there's definitely going to be some of that going on. Mike Lewis is still, I think, the guy for the job.
Yeah,
I've never seen this. It's wild because usually when teams are like this, you see a lot of fans calling for the coach's head, right? When they have such a big drop, but that's not the case with Ball State, rightfully so.
I mean, you kind of always, when it's a new person at the job, you kind of just have to ignore year one. But I mean, they're still 8-8. They're 0-4 in the conference, but they're right there in those games.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, they were lost by 5 points to Toledo, who's first in the conference right now.
Right.
And in the Akron game, they played the nation's leader in boards and double-doubles, Enrique Freeman. So, I mean, they're not playing some scrubs. I mean, Akron's down this year-ish. They're similar to Ball State record-wise, but they're still good teams. And Toledo has won 19 straight in the MAC, and their last loss was to Ball State in last January.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're right there, it's tough, but they're gonna get there in some of these games, and they'll probably finish, maybe somewhere in the middle, maybe somewhere around 500 in the conference, hopefully. Which is
completely okay. That's still a successful season. The MAC is not a joke.
Yeah.
I know we've talked all season about how the Missouri Valley Conference is just everyone's dogs.
Yeah.
Right. The MAC is very similar to that. Maybe a step down in terms of how dense it is competition-wise, but the MAC is definitely a tough conference, and so Ball State still has a lot of conference games to play. There's still a lot of things that they can figure out and move forward. So.
And keep in mind, you don't really think of it too much because of how great he's been, but Jihad is replacing a 2-time All-MAC guy.
Yep.
So, I mean, big shoes to fill, and he's done a great job, but you are losing a 2-time MAC.
And they're playing a completely different style of basketball than they did last year. So definitely some growing pains, but it happens. And speaking of it happens, something that doesn't happen very often is Butler. Really, what doesn't happen very often is Marquette losing at home.
Anywhere in the Big East, anyone losing at home doesn't happen very often. And Butler beat and Marquette lost at home, and then Butler lost at home this.
Yeah, so wild week for Butler. They did stay at 63 in KenPom, which is great. They Adam alluded to it. They went 1-1 last week. They with a win at Marquette, and they lost to Seton Hall at home. Still sitting at 11-6 overall. They are 2-4 in the Big East, but the Big East is tough, and we've seen it the last couple of weeks. Everyone's losing in the Big East. Everyone. On any given night, anyone can lose. So,
and Butler's probably the team that has the closest losses in the Big East. I think other than like the St. John's loss, and I mean, I guess the Providence loss was technically not close because they got destroyed in overtime, but they took it to overtime.
Well, here's a stat for you that I came across this week. So Butler has lost 4 games in which it held a greater than 60% win probability in the second half.
Okay.
They had a 68% win probability with 9 minutes left against FAU, not a Big East team, right? But still, they had
still a top 25 team.
Yeah, they had an 89% chance win probability with 9 seconds left at Providence. 61% chance win probability with 16 minutes left versus UConn, the only top 10 team that didn't lose last week.
Yep. 1 of 2, I think.
They had a 79% chance to beat Seton Hall when there were 3 minutes left in the game the other night. And then they had 2 overtime wins in games where they had a 98% and an 89% win probability in the second half. That alone shows that Butler's just losing those tough games late in the game. But they're still a great team. I mean, last week, Joe Lunardi had them listed as a next 4 out.
So
in his bracketology.
Yeah, and a lot of that is if you literally give them any of those games. So if you give them, they win just one more of these games, they're in the tournament, probably on the 10-11 line, maybe the 12 line, depending on how it breaks, but they're making it into the tournament. And if they don't make it into the tournament, you're looking at a team that's probably a 1 seed, if not the number 1 overall seed in the NIT, just
100%.
because they don't have enough resume wins.
Yeah. And I mean, this next 4 out from Lunardi did come out before they played Marquette.
Yeah.
So next week we could be looking at them listed as a tournament team right now, which is great because we love that for the Dogs. But let's talk about the Marquette and Seton Hall game a little bit.
Yeah.
So you got me excited talking about their close wins, and I wanted to kind of say that, or close losses.
Let's just touch on these real quick.
Yep.
I think the biggest, most consistent piece for Butler this year has been Pierre Brooks. He's still consistently in double figures every single game this year. He's just shooting it super well, and he's just such a great piece for him or for the team, for him. Dad Mata, I guess. Not what I was going for, but
it works.
Apparently Jalen Thomas heard that we were pointing out the stats between him and Andre Screen, and was like, "It's my week. Don't worry, I'll show you why I start."
Yeah,
because he was really great. He went out and had 10 and 14 against Marquette, and what did he do? 15 and 7 against Seton Hall. But the team's just so close. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean their defense was outstanding in both the Seton Hall and the Marquette games. I mean, Cam Jones led scorers for Marquette with 20. He only had 3 in the second half.
Yeah,
like that's they definitely showed up when it mattered, and they pulled that game off pretty. The score line doesn't show it, but they kind of controlled that game most of the game. But exciting stuff going on in Butler.
Yeah. But it's just like if they don't make the tournament, it's because they just didn't get literally one of these games. If they play the rest, even or whatever, they win at home and they lose away. We'll see. But they're right there. I mean, they are right there. Yeah. And it sucks that they dropped one at home, but they'll steal one on the road. I'm confident. They're playing too many games close to not do that.
Yeah.
But Evansville,
they did not sneak one on the road. And they also dropped one, unfortunately, at home.
Yes, this team is not the same as it was 3 weeks ago. And a big reason for that is Ben Humrickhouse is still out. They got absolutely destroyed at home against, at Bradley. They lost by 36, and then they lost at home to Missouri State by 10. They went from 194 down to 227 in KenPom, which brings them. They started. What?
They're like 10-3 to
They started 10-2.
Yeah.
They started 10-2, and now they're 10-7. So they're 1-5 in the MVC. And this is a team that before Hummerhouse went down, we were talking about could be probably not in that group with like Indiana State and Bradley, Belmont, or no, with Drake and like Bradley and Belmont, all those teams that are up there. Could be in like that next tier.
Yeah.
Now they're looking like they're more in Valpo's tier. And we're going to find out who's better because they're both 1-5 now.
Yep.
And they're playing this week.
Yep. Well, we'll get into that a little bit later, but this Bradley game, the most technical fouls I've ever seen in a game. There were 4 technicals. 1 was picked up by Kenny Strawbridge, and 3 were called on Bradley in the last 8 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Which is wild because what is Bradley doing? I didn't watch the game. I wasn't able to catch it, but they won by 36. What are they doing late in the game to pick up 3 technical fouls? I understand, heat of the moment, an Evansville player picking up a tee because they got a bad call or something like that, being down, tension's high.
Or maybe in like a close game.
If you're up if you're up 20 or more and you're picking up 3 technicals and back-to-back almost possessions, it is not going to work.
The Valley's full of dogs, dude.
Yeah.
Tanner Cuff came off the bench, had 9. Chuck Bailey had 18. Played well. Those 2 played well, but the team just didn't. Missouri State game, Gage Bobe, after the Gage Bobe game last week, started in place of Cam Hafner. Didn't recreate his performance from last week.
That's okay.
Got to start.
Yeah, hey, he earned that spot. Yeah, this Missouri State game, it was tough because, taking a 10-point loss is never fun, especially when you're kind of on a losing streak like they are. But Coach Ragland, very positive things to say about the game. He said, overall, I'm happy with the mindset that we had tonight. It felt like progress in the right direction. It felt like that last 2 games were not characteristic of how we are as a team. We came out and punched first tonight. Missouri State did a good job of responding to that, and it was back and forth the entire game. There were a few fixable things that we can improve on from tonight and get better. And I think that's really the approach that you have to take as a head coach. And he's in his first year. He's in his second year. They're playing without their best player, and they're still kind of learning from those things and adapting. And I think that's huge as they get more into kind of the thick of things with the Valley.
And I think there's a lot to be positive about here because freshman Josh Hughes had a career night, 22. He went 7 of 10 for 3, and Robert and Toomey were 1 and 2 points away, respectively, from a double-double. So the team's playing well. They're just not getting over the hump. And I think a lot of that is they're just not at full strength.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the games that we talked about with them, it's like, do they win this with Hummerhouse in? No, because they got destroyed by, Indiana State. They got destroyed by Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a lot more competitive.
Yeah.
And the game looks a lot different. And you miss him on offense and on defense. So he was out of his boot, which is nice.
Yeah, good signs.
Yeah, so
positive progress.
Moving towards getting back. So, Ben, we hope you're back for the Valpo game. Valpo probably doesn't hope you're back yet. They probably hope you come back a game later, but we want you to come back as soon as possible.
Yep. So, Indiana. Whew. Weird week. They stayed at 91 in KenPom. They went 1-1, bringing their 12-5 overall with a 4-2 conference record. Still looking good in the conference standings, but they got absolutely the scoreline doesn't show it, but they got absolutely dumped on by Rutgers. They lost in the rack.
It's a
66 to 57.
It's a house of horrors for the Hoosiers, and I think just Ron Harper Jr. cast a spell on Indiana, and it's still going. It was rejuvenated. The spell got refreshed because his brother committed, and so now Indiana's just cursed to play horrible at Rutgers.
It's scary, but they did pick up the win over Minnesota back in Assembly Hall, 74-62. The Rutgers game. I'm just going to read off this quote from Mike Woodson because I think that it completely describes the game better than I could. We were awful. We missed 11 free throws. We missed a lot of wide open threes. We had 18 turnovers and gave up 19 offensive rebounds. that's losing basketball. I'm surprised we were that close. Me too, Mike Woodson.
Yeah.
I am also surprised that Indiana was that close.
It was one where it was on Peacock? Yeah, this one was on Peacock because I was like, I turned it on and paused it because I was waiting for Audrey to be done doing bedtime. And then I was like,
you gonna dox your wife like that?
Yeah, I was like, I'll just check the score. And so I checked the score and I was like, oh, I don't even want to watch this. So I turned it on a little bit and just half watched. I was like, I just can't, I will be too heated watching this. 18 turnovers, 19 turnovers, 18 turnovers. But what I want to talk about is, we kind of have to touch on it, is in the Minnesota game, Xavier Johnson did not play well. He came off the bench. I assume he came off the bench because of his ejection in the last game.
According to Mike Woodson, in the post-game conference against Minnesota, it was
due to
in-house stuff, which is likely. If you didn't know, Xavier Johnson did get a flagrant 2 against
Hit somebody
Rutgers.
in the nuts.
I was going to say it a little bit more elegantly, but yeah, that's what happened. You
just got to say it.
It was kind of a bang-bang play. I'm on the fence of I understand the initial contact. The excessive contact was definitely not something that a guy is.
Yeah, I'm not saying he was intentionally trying to hit somebody in the nuts, and mess him up. But
that's just what happened.
He hit someone in the nuts.
Yeah,
and you would have felt like if you just hopped on Twitter, didn't watch this game, and you just looked at hashtag IUBB, you would have thought that Xavier Johnson killed someone.
Yeah.
Brought someone to center court and slit their throat because of how Twitter was talking about him. It was are you kidding me? Is this not the same guy that we were excited to have back for his 6th year?
He's still the same guy I was excited to have back for his 6th year.
The team is still better having him there. You're ridiculous for acting that way and tweeting about it, because 1, the players look at that stuff.
Yeah.
2, it's so out of pocket, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's ridiculous. I think the fan base, that portion of the fan base, I will not say the fan base, that portion of the fan base is out of control.
I agree. I mean, there were people. So in the Minnesota game, Indiana did not shoot super great from the free throw line again, which is never fun, right? We talk about the importance of free throws, especially in basketball in the state of Indiana. There were home fans booing Indiana players while they were at the free throw line when they were missing shots, which if you're an IU fan and that's you, I'm just going to say, turn off the podcast now.
Just don't go to the game, dude.
Yeah, don't go to the game. We don't support that behavior from anyone, really. Unless you're
anyone, any program.
Yeah, that's just, to me, unacceptable for any fan to do. Booing for their own
Booing your
team.
own players is ridiculous.
Especially because free throws are so mental that when you're at home, hearing people boo you while you're at the free throw line trying to make a free throw so they hear you cheer, that's just demoralizing if you're a player. I've never been on that stage, but I haven't
had 17,000 people in an arena and hear freaking boos come out of nowhere. But I mean, they booed. Remember in the Big Ten tournament when Indiana's team got booed when they were losing in Archie's last year?
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
Especially when your team, Indiana played great against Minnesota.
Yeah.
They came out with high energy.
They played a full 40 minutes.
Mackenzie Mbako played outstanding. He's really coming alive, finally.
Yep.
And you're still going to boo? They led from the tip almost.
Yeah.
They led the entire game other than the first 40 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So just chill it out.
You can't have it both ways, because it's not this it's this portion of the fan base that's booing people that is also why didn't we get Boogie Fland? Why didn't we get this person? It's why would they want to come to Indiana if you're going to boo them?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that portion of the fan base just makes me mad. But we'll talk about the game a little bit. In the Minnesota, so they Rutgers game got dumped on. Minnesota game, Mbako had 19, and he's improving. And he was talking about in the post game that like the nail slot rim defense that they run is just so different from his defense in high school that he has taken a lot of time to adjust. And I think that's a fair thing for him to talk about because he did look lost at the beginning of the year. He looked really rough on defense, but you're talking about a guy who's a McDonald's All-American, played a lot of AAU, I assume, and could rely on his offense and his athleticism to carry him. He didn't have to play a really, really tough defense that required him to be mentally locked in all the time. So
yeah, and I mean, really, his his confidence defensively now is showing on defense, but it's also now translating to his offense. He's a go-to scorer for them.
Yep.
Really, in most situations. So again, anyone that was super out on him, gotta give people time to adjust and really get into the groove of things. We've been talking about it all season with every program.
I don't know why they're not even like people are just drawing their lines and they're saying like, oh, he sucks. Dude, he's played like 4 games.
Right.
Oh, this team's terrible. They are 12-5.
Yep.
They're 4-2 in conference. They're about to play a game on Tuesday to decide who's in sole possession of second place in conference. Like,
right.
Just calm down.
Yeah.
Just calm down.
I'm fired up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You want to move on to Indiana State?
I do, because I'm fired up about this team too.
Indiana State, they moved up 3 spots in KenPom. They were 51 last week. They're currently 48. Check my math. I think I did that math correctly. They're 14-3 overall. Got a 5-1 conference record because they went 1-1 this week. They lost a tough game at Drake, but then they bounced back and got a huge win against Belmont.
Like huge in the Missouri Valley like standings race, and huge because they won by 30.
Yeah.
Like
so really huge times 3.
Huge in every way possible. I mean, Drake is the team that's contending for the Missouri Valley with Indiana State right now. So you're looking at Drake and Indiana State are 5-1. Bradley and Southern Illinois and Belmont and Murray State are 4-2. And so they were like 2.5-point dogs at Drake. So in an away environment, you kind of expect them to drop that one. They lost by 11. Turnovers were basically what killed them.
Yeah.
They averaged 12.5 turnovers in the game because they just play really fast. They had 15, so more than their average, but the killer is they only forced 3.
Yep.
So they didn't turn Drake over, and Drake just took care of the ball. 1 point off turnovers versus 18. That's more than the game right there.
Yeah. I mean, I will say Indiana State, this was their worst shooting night of the year at 43%.
Yeah.
So
and 36%
not terrible
from 3.
Yeah, they were
their terrible shooting night is like a good shooting night for almost every other team on this list.
Yeah. But it was also their first loss of the season when 5 or more players scored more than 10 points. So they had over 5 players with double-digit points. Which is, 78 points. That's, if you do the math, that's at least 7 people could have had 10 points or more. But yeah, turnovers were definitely the killer. They made up for that against Belmont.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly took this performance, knew the road performance was going to be tough. Some people didn't play well the first game, Swope didn't play too great, but he bounced back harder than anyone I've seen bounces back from a bad game, because he goes in at home against Belmont and he has 24 points and he was 8 of 11 from 3. He was 1 away from a school record and didn't even know it.
Yeah.
They told him in the post game, and they're like,
"Why didn't anyone tell me?"
He was like, "I didn't know. I might have taken more shots."
We're taking a couple more shots. Yeah.
My question is for you, Jaron. My free throw is the record number of free throws It is 9, right?
Yep.
And how many record number of 3-pointers was 9. Was it held by Larry Bird? And if not, what was his record?
It's not held by Larry Bird. It's actually held by Cooper Neese, who did it last year versus Belmont, and Mariko Stinson, who did it in 2006 against Drake. I'm going to guess his record was like 7.
0. No 3-point line.
Oh, dang it. I always forget.
Trick question.
I always forget.
No 3-point line.
But it's funny that was a free throw for me because I was a stat line that I wrote down was.
I figured you might have seen it, but I was like, just in case you didn't.
Yeah.
No, I figured like you might have seen it when you were doing your research.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna write it down just in case.
That's pretty funny. But they've now won 4 or more games by 30. 4 games by 30 or more points this season. Pretty big. I'd say usually I harp about bench points a lot. This game, I'm not too worried because of Indiana State's 94 points. 80 of them were scored by the 5 starters.
And they don't have like a super deep scoring bench.
Right. But that's still pretty, like, usually you don't have a score that high without one bench player popping off.
Yeah, like
didn't need it.
They'll usually run, like what? 6-7 guys for the most part.
Have a 7-person rotation.
Like Miller and Bledson will get in there, and they'll be like, the 7 guys that play most of the game.
Yeah.
So it's not too surprising, but
pretty sweet.
Avila and Kent both had double doubles, and Avila, he's like what 6'10".
Yeah.
He said he got his one dunk of the year in on a breakaway. He got the pass. He's like, yeah, that's like my one. I get like 1 or 2 a year. Which is just crazy to think about being 6'10" and only dunking once or twice.
But he plays so dynamically that he's never down. What this week, and I'm not gonna ignore that I was getting ready to say something. I want to bring it up when we talk about another team.
Okay.
But
you want to talk about the next team?
IUPUI.
Okay.
I'm good on Indiana State. Great ball from the Sycamores. IUPUI, not as great of ball. They did move down 1 spot in Ken Pom. They are currently at 361.
There's only 1 spot
left.
Farther down they can go.
Yeah, they went 0-2 this week, bringing their overall record to 5-12, 1-7 in the Horizon League. They are a 10-point loss to Green Bay, and a 22-point loss to Oakland. IUPUI had a 22-10 lead about halfway through the first half against Green Bay. And then the half ended tied so it's 22-10 about halfway through the first half.
Yeah.
First half ended 29-29. Then Green Bay took that personal. They're like, we can't be tied with IUPUI at half, and went on a 14-6 run to start the second half, and it was just GG's.
Yeah, they just came out, and they just shot better, made more threes, doubled them up on 3-pointers. Green Bay was 16 of 20 from the line, and yeah, like you said, the second half was just basically all Green Bay.
Yeah, positive note. We talked about it last week. They had 28 turnovers against Youngstown State.
Yeah,
they bounced back in a big way against Green Bay. They won the turnover battle 10-14 for a 20-10 points off turnover differential. So better, ball control.
Yeah, the team does not rebound well generally.
They didn't win that battle either.
They never do, really.
Right. Yeah.
Like what? Oh, this Oakland game, they got killed on the glass 35-20.
Yep.
So part of their problem is they don't shoot a great percentage.
They did against
They
Oakland.
turn it over a little bit too much sometimes.
Yep.
And sometimes way too much.
Yep.
So they're losing offensive possessions, and then they don't rebound very well. So they're basically just, putting up a shot and then getting back on defense.
Yeah.
And it clearly is not working out very well.
Not
and it
how
stinks.
ball is done.
No. If all 3 of those are happening, you got to do one of them better. You either got to shoot a better percentage so you don't have to rebound better, or you got to take better care of the ball so you can get more shots, right?
Yeah. in the Oakland game, I will say that IUPUI did finish 43% from the field
Mm-hmm.
and 43% from 3-point range.
That's a lot better.
Probably their best shooting night of the
One
season.
of them, yeah.
Yeah.
But Oakland just came out hot.
Yeah, they were down 20 at half.
Yeah. And they just couldn't make up for it. They got to like cut it down to like 14 a couple of times.
Yeah.
That was it. But Oakland just, 15 more rebounds is crazy. But before we move on, they're 361 in the country. There are 362 teams. Who's below them? My free throw. Who's the only team below IUPUI in the country?
I want to say Green Bay, but it's probably not.
No, it's not Green Bay. And IUPUI is probably safe at 361 because 362 is 0-16 Mississippi Valley State.
Wow.
So they are their adjusted efficiency margin. IUPUI is minus 23.69 and Mississippi Valley State is negative 30.87. So they're pretty safely in 361st. So they can move up, but they probably won't move down because Mississippi Valley State is 0-6.
Hey, Mississippi Valley State is looks like number 2 in the adjusted non-conference strength of schedule rating.
Yeah, that sounds right. And they played hard games.
Every other team is better than
they
them.
played hard games and they got blown out, I'm sure. But we are not a Mississippi Valley State show. We're an Indiana show. So now we're going to talk about Notre Dame.
Fighting Irish.
Who went up 2 spots in Ken Palm. They're 160th from 162. They went 1-1 this week. Brings them to 7-10 overall, and they're 1-4 in the ACC. And they had a big win. They went to Georgia Tech.
Yep, down
and
in
they
Atlanta.
won 75-68 in overtime. Yeah. Right, they went to overtime, didn't they? And then they lost at home to Florida State 67-58. What I learned from the Georgia Tech game is that people from Indiana can shoot. Unless they go to IU, then they forget how to shoot.
Right.
But people from Indiana, like Mark Spurgeon or maybe Braden Shrewsbury, can shoot. So Braden Shrewsbury had a career high, 25 points. He was 6 of 6 from the line and 5 of 9 from 3. So that's huge. Did really well. And
won them the game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Off the bench, too.
Yeah. Notre Dame also did force 26 Georgia Tech turnovers. So just as much as Braden Shrewsbury won them the game, their defense won them the game.
Yeah.
I think they only gave up a basket in overtime.
I think that sounds, yes.
Yep.
Sounds right.
I really like this Notre Dame team. They're
me
fun.
too. They responded.
They did respond to his post-game
after the Citadel. And it's Shrew's first road win at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And in conference, too.
Yep. They did not do as well against Florida State. Lost by 9. Did not shoot nearly as well from 3 that they did against Georgia Tech. Really just Shrews, unfortunately. Braden Shrewsbury, unfortunately, did. He only had enough magic in him for 1 week to.
Didn't repeat his performance.
But that's okay. That's okay. They Florida State grabbed 10 offensive rebounds in the first half.
In the first half?
Only had 2 in the second half. But that turned into 16 second chance points. And then Florida State also went 13 of 15 from the free throw line compared to Notre Dame going 3 of 11.
Yeah, this game was very different from last game because last game they were 19 of 21 from the line. And the game before that, they were pretty bad from the line too, but then they were 3 of 11 from the line this game. So yeah, just didn't have this. I don't know. I guess they shoot better in Atlanta.
They just didn't have the juice. They played a hard. They played an extra 5 minutes. So
that's true.
People
are saying.
Yeah, people are saying that's what did it.
They played hard though, and that's what matters to me. I mean, the shots weren't falling, especially from Because they went in the first half, it seemed like they were gonna, repeat their performance. They went 6 of 12 from three, so they shot 50%, and then they went 3 of 14 in the second half. So just kind of tanked it, which sucks. But I mean, Notre Dame, I don't know. The ACC is not the Big 12. It's not the Big East, but it's still tough. And I don't know. Just try and steal some and build on what you get.
Yeah, I mean, they're a young team. We talked about at the beginning of the season. This is everything's positive from this point on. So
yeah, you did. Honestly, you were probably supposed to be worse.
Yeah.
They're what, 160? They started like 200th or something, around 200th in KenPom. So they've gotten better. They've overperformed, and I mean that's good news.
Yeah, they started 201.
Yeah.
So
good for them.
They've moved up quite a few spots. So
We had a rough week though for them. Rough week
for the Dons.
Yes.
Yeah, they went 0-2. They dropped they're at 158 in KenPom, dropped down from 144. Still 13-5 overall. Positive record. 4-3 in the conference, slowly dwindling away the last few weeks, unfortunately. They lost to Youngstown State by 8. Then they lost at Robert Morris in overtime by 3. Absolute heartbreaking loss. Against Robert Morris.
Ending of Robert Morris, like, again, I'm not superstitious. Not even a little stitious. But it was a bad look, because when I was watching overtime against Robert Morris, I saw, who was it? Quentin Morton Robertson had what I thought was going to be the game winner. He hits a dagger with like 58 seconds left. And I tweeted, I was like, Quentin Morton Robertson with the dagger.
I'm glad you brought it up, because I knew this happened. I was not going to bring it up because I was going to save you.
And I got to call myself out. Call my shots when I'm right. Call them when I'm pretty wrong. And then, that put them up 2. They ended up making some free throws, and then they ended up hitting a buzzer beater 3.
Yep.
To win. It just sucks. It just sucks for them, especially because Robert Morris is kind of dookie in the conference. And so this was like your most winnable road game other than at IUPUI.
Yeah, I mean, there were 19 lead changes and 10 ties in this Robert Morris game, which is tough to see. The Dons did force 25 turnovers. They needed a 26th to seal the game.
Yeah. Just a tough week for the Dons. I mean, they played so hard, and you just hate to see them not rewarded for it.
Yep.
Especially because you're talking about, before this week, they were sitting at 1 loss in the conference. They hadn't gone 0-2 in a week at all. They hadn't taken a losing week. And this doesn't take them out of the Horizon League.
It makes it a little bit tougher.
It definitely makes it a lot tougher.
Going into Cleveland State this week.
Yeah.
I think they go to Cleveland State. They play Cleveland State. I just don't remember if it's home or away for the Dons. But, I mean, even the Youngstown State game, it ended on a heartbreaker. Here's the last few possessions, how they transpired. Morton Robinson hit a layup, put Purdue down 3 with 2:14 left to play. Bello stole the ball, giving the Dons a chance to tie, right? Like, they're down 2, or they're down 3. They have the ball. Jalen Jackson had a missed jumper. Youngstown State got it. They got a basket and a foul. Went up 2 scores, and it was GG's.
Yeah. I mean, they're also pretty young. I mean,
yeah.
They're not all super young, but I mean, Jalen Jackson's a sophomore.
They're
Bello's young. He's a sophomore. They're young together too.
They're young together. They haven't been. It's quite a different team than they had last year.
Yeah, and they are replacing their entire starting 5, but they're sitting at 4-3, so they're in a 1, 2, 3, 4-way tie for fourth, because Oakland and Green Bay are 6-2, Youngstown State's 5-2, Milwaukee's 4-2. So they're still up there. I expect them to finish up with Oakland and Green Bay, but 6-2 versus 4-3. that's half a game back, a game and a half back. I never know how this works. How many games back you are. They've played 7 games in conference. Oakland has played 8, so they are a game and a half back.
Correct.
Okay. If they win this game against,
because it's a half game. Each game is worth 2 halves. If that makes sense. So yeah,
they're 1.5 games back. So not bad. I mean, you're looking at they're 13-5. Oakland and Green Bay are both 11-8 in 11 overall, and Youngstown State's 13-5. So they're still sitting right there in the hunt for the conference, but they need to kind of keep going to stay up in there and finish in that first tier, not that second tier.
You know who's also sitting in the hunt for the conference?
Sitting in maybe second.
That's still the hunt.
Yeah. But
not in first place, unfortunately.
And
unfortunately,
they haven't been at all in first place.
You're actually right.
They've not been the favorite.
Holy shit. Purdue. They moved down 1 spot in KenPom. They are currently at 3.
Oh, scary. Third place.
They went 1-1 this week, 15-2 overall, 4-2 in the conference. Like we said, tied with Indiana. They took a big loss at Nebraska by 16, and then they won pretty handily back at Mackey against Penn State.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, well.
Before we go into their thing, I still don't know how. Like Purdue is still behind Arizona, who's 12-4, and behind Houston, who just went 0-2 this week. I mean, it's because of Houston's non-conference and the way that they win and all blah, blah, blah. The algorithm says, and, whoever the algorithm is, Rhythm or whatever from Space Jam. But it's just kind of crazy that they're still third in KenPom. An argument for them still being first is on the table in the country in the AP poll.
We'll talk about that a little bit later.
We'll talk about that but if you're a Purdue fan, you need to go to your dartboard and take off the picture of Jalen Hood-Schifino, and which probably has a picture of Ron Harper Jr. underneath it. So just right on top of that picture of Jalen Hood-Schifino, slap a Keisei Tominaga right on your dartboard, because he's the new villain.
Yeah, the dude is an absolute menace. I had a couple buddies who were watching the game who are big Purdue fans, and I hadn't turned the game on yet. I was doing something, and they were just saying Keisei Tominaga is a problem. Mm-hmm. And my first question back in the text was, are his parents still there? Because the game when he played Indiana last week, his parents were there, and they said, my buddies responded, I'm not sure. It's like, if his parents were there, you would know, because they would show them on the broadcast.
It's like how you always knew. It's like how you always knew last year when Zach Edey's mom was there.
Yeah. But not that that's wrong. Not saying that's wrong at all. But I was just curious, because he played he had the game of his life last week. He really came alive. He's been struggling up to this point in the season, really. Then his parents came to visit, and he got his dad must have brought the Space Jam ball and or the secret stuff, and gave it to him, because he's on fire now. And this is actually pretty funny. I'm pretty sure this is the shortest post-game recap that Purdue Athletics has written all season. Usually you have to extend the page a couple times because of all the records and all the different stats. Mm-hmm. No, this is like a paragraph and a half, which makes sense because it was just an absolute brutal game. Yeah,
the way they guarded Edey, the way Nebraska guarded Edey was great. I thought that they did a better job of denying Edey without just hacking the crap out of him.
Yeah.
The way they fronted him and the way they pinned him was so much better than other teams have done. But it is, I'm against it 90% of the time, unless it's someone who fouls a ton. But benching Edey with 2 fouls was a mistake in this game.
Yep.
Because unlike the last time when they played Illinois, they didn't have Trakoff and Wren to step up, and they needed Edey in there.
Yeah, I mean, Rank Mast had the game of his life against Edie.
Yep.
The dude was everywhere, and Edie's got 6 inches on him, something like that. Like the dude just balled. He looked like Eric Mulder out there.
Yeah.
The effort that he was putting in, working hard. I don't know his stat line off the top of my head.
But
Probably doesn't show it.
It was the intangibles, just the way he guarded Edie. I mean, just the way they covered him was a lot better than probably anyone has ever done as like the most true guarding job you could do, you know, without just, oh, well, we'll just bully him.
Yeah. And I mean, Nebraska, they weren't afraid to attack the paint either.
Nope.
Like they won points in the paint 28-20, which it still baffles me anytime a team beats Purdue in paint points just because they have Edie. Like I feel like that's a guaranteed 15, 20 points by himself.
But he also barely played.
Yeah, I think he only had 15 total points.
And he only finished with 3 fouls.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't help Purdue that Nebraska their whole team played like Steph Curry. They shot 60% from 3.
Yeah.
So
they actually shot less threes than Purdue, and Purdue only made 1 less 3 than Nebraska. But Nebraska they just all hit. Talking about Penn State, it's going to be very hard for Purdue to lose back-to-back games.
Because of their schedule?
Because of their schedule, but also just because of the coach that Matt Painter is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he is going to take their loss and pick it apart relentlessly, and they're going to correct what they did poorly the game before.
Yeah.
And it's also just, in this week specifically, or this past week specifically, playing Penn State, like, it's
nice that they have a get-right game between Indiana. Yeah.
That's only going to work in Indiana's favor.
Well, Indiana and Purdue both took losses, and then they had a get-right game. So they both had get-right games. So now anything goes. But congrats to Zach Edey. He had a just dominant 30 points and 20 boards, and he was 10 from 12 of the field and 10 from 14 from the line. And he passed 1,000 rebounds.
Good for him.
So congratulations. He got a nice
game ball,
decorative ball.
Yep.
I saw that was really awesome.
The orange ball with the white, like.
Yeah, but it was like painted. Had like pictures of him, I think.
Huh.
I'd have to go back and look
nice
it up.
Touch.
But if he's chasing Joe Barry Carroll, that's definitely going to help. Braden Smith, 6 points, 11 dishes. So, I mean, that's effectively, 22 points plus 6, 28 points right there that he, facilitated. Painter said that Gillis was huge for them, and just the energy that he brought and the way that he was able to hit the 3 ball. I mean, you won by 30 points almost. But if you ever want to go listen to a post-game interview, I recommend Matt Painter's for any post-game. He's so good in the post-game. He gives the most thorough answers. He's honest, and he knows ball, and he's just a good dude. So if you ever want to watch a good post-game interview, win or lose, it's Matt Painter. Even after their loss against Fairleigh Dickinson, he literally stayed on there. It was just like, I'm basically, at one point it was like, I'm going to answer every question till there are no questions.
Yep.
Like, I'm going to answer every single one. And he sat there and he did. And he was like, do you have any more questions? Do you have any more questions? And he just I guess knew it was his last time. And he was like, he's just such a good dude.
Yep.
But let's move on to the next team.
Southern Indiana
went up in KenPom.
And they lost, unfortunately.
Yeah, Southern Indiana is
Fortunate
wild.
that they went up, but this team either doesn't play or loses, and they still go up in KenPom, which is great. I think that is a testament to just the way they're playing ball.
Yeah,
and they're lower in the rankings, and so a lot of other teams are losing down there too. But they lost to Southern Illinois University Edwardsville 67-64. So it was another heartbreaking game. Brings their overall record to 5-13 and 2-3 in the conference.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't won a lot of games. They've won 5, and they've had a lot of heartbreaking games. Close, but people like AJ Smith are popping for 20 and 12.
Yep.
They were down 11 with less than 2.5 minutes left, but then they got it to 1, and SIUE went on to, up 3 with free throws and whatever it was, and then they couldn't send it to. But if you're looking for positives on this team, because sometimes we talk about this team and it's just kind of down because they haven't won a ton of games. They're down from last year. Their defense is pretty good. So they're consistently above, in the top of the OVC in defense, and they're top of the league in effective field goal percentage defense and 2-point defense. Fifth in turnover percentage and third in efficiency. So they've got really good numbers. The thing that's kind of hindering them is just their offensive production.
Yeah, I mean, they started the second half on an 11-2 run, but quickly gave it up. If they can start more games like that and just get off to a lead quickly, I think it's going to help them just because of the way they're playing offense. It was just run after run on both sides against SIUE, and Southern Indiana said their offense just couldn't get over that hump.
Yeah,
right. So they don't quit though.
No,
that's for damn sure.
And Stan Gerard said we can't hang our heads. There's a lot of ball left to be played. I think we're still a team that can contend at the top of the league, but we can't hang our heads. We got to continue to have confidence in ourselves. Yeah, if they keep playing defense like this, that's why they're in these games. Their defense is so good. They just got to get and they'll win them.
Yep, for sure. Dang it, forgot to bring it up. So when we were talking about Indiana State earlier, I was going to bring up this past week, I think, makes a case that Purdue versus Indiana State would be a damn good game. Because Indiana State's going to shoot a little bit better than Nebraska did. We saw Purdue didn't defend the three that great. So we've been talking about all season, Indiana State versus Purdue. It'd be a fun game.
Look, put a pin in that. Let's talk about that in like 2 weeks. We'll write a note. We'll talk about that because I want to make or maybe at the end of the season or something.
Okay.
I want to talk. I have a lot of theories on that game.
Yep.
But let's talk about Valpo. They went up.
Big jump up.
Quite a bit.
20
went up
points,
18 in KenPom. So they're 298th in KenPom. So they cracked the top 300, which is nice. They lost to Southern Illinois 77-68, and they won a road game at Illinois State 59-50.
First conference win of the season.
Yep, 1-1 overall. 1-1 in the 1-1 this week. 5-12 overall. 1-5 in the conference, and they just snapped a 10-game losing streak. I think.
Ring the
bell.
Ring the bell.
Ring the victory bell.
Ring the victory bell. If you don't know what the victory bell is, check out our episode coming out tomorrow.
Yeah,
we'll tell you all about it. Special preview episode for the Valpo versus Evansville game. We got to sit down with a friend of the show, Paul Oren of the Victory Bell. It's about the only teaser I'm going to give you as of now, but check it out tomorrow.
Just a note for me, my notes say Southern Illinois, so it's like a virtual school. Nice. Isaiah Stafford in the Southern Illinois game had 19. Darius Diavero had 18 and 5 assists, and then in the next game, he had 9 points and 8 assists. So, dude, dishing it out really well, playing that kind of true point guard role that he kind of got to play right now with, like Stafford, shooting a lot and being a high volume shooter. He's able to set people up really well.
Yeah, I mean, the Southern Illinois game, first half was not great from Valpo. They shot 36%, and Southern Illinois shot 61%. But it was pretty much the complete reverse in the second half. So that's Valpo turned it on when they needed to. They shot 63% in the second half and held SIU to 39% from the field. So
yeah, and you're talking about them playing literally the nation's leading scorer.
Yep.
Xavier Johnson.
Yep.
No, not that Xavier Johnson. Southern Illinois' Xavier Johnson.
How proud of yourself are you? Of that just...
I don't know.
You seem pretty proud.
I don't know. I just, got to keep in mind the fact that, there's another Xavier Johnson and he's the better known. I don't know. But, Cooper Schweiger had 16 and 13 boards in the Illinois State game. So when you can get Illinois State to go 1 for 18 from 3,
it's going to help.
That's a recipe for winning. So thought they might.
And when you go 33% from 3.
Yeah, thought they might go give it away at the end because Illinois State was really pushing for it, but they held strong. So I'm really proud of them.
Yeah, no, they shot well from the free throw line as well. Shot pretty decent, 43% from the field overall. So great for them. I want to talk about. You want to tell me who Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week is?
Why don't you ask me?
Adam, who is the Week 10 Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week?
Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week is Braden Shrewsbury from Notre Dame. He had a career high 25 points, 3 rebounds, 5 of 9 from 3, and 6 for 6 from the line. So his plus minus was an insane plus 26.
Hell yeah.
Which is huge. He took over the true road game, his dad's first true road game win, and
while at Notre Dame.
Yeah, while at Notre Dame, and won at Georgia Tech, and he did it off the bench. Came off the bench and just showed out. So Braden Shrewsbury, Week 10, Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week. Congratulations.
That's what's up. So, a lot of in-state matchups this week.
It's like rivalry week, I guess.
That would make a lot of sense, yeah. So, I guess we'll touch on the 3 matchups that we have, and then we'll call out a couple other games that we want to look out for. Alluded to a couple of these already. Indiana, Purdue, in Assembly Hall. Going to be an interesting game. Indiana are 11-point dogs.
If that line stands for like the actual odds, just bet on Indiana to cover.
We're not a betting show, so don't come. If you do, don't say we told you to.
Yeah,
we're not a betting show, but keep it in mind.
I just like on paper, I can absolutely see Purdue winning this by 35. But it's Indiana and Purdue, so
in the hall,
I cannot see it being an 11-point game. Truly.
Yeah, I see it. It's either going to be a blowout or it's going to be like single digits one way or the other.
Yep.
It'll be a blowout in favor of Purdue or single digits one way or the other.
It's just harder to see them losing by 11 at home.
Yep.
With, that many fans. So that's going to be exciting. We're going to get to see
especially
which
with a lot of
7-footer
rest.
is better. Yeah.
True, because both teams are having have 5 days to prepare. Oh no, Purdue doesn't have as many days to prepare, right? Because the Minnesota game was a day before.
So
Penn State game, but either way,
Purdue. Yeah, we get to see Zach Edey versus
2
Khalil
very
Ware. Will be
different
interesting.
7-footers.
Yep.
It's going to be a fun game. Should be a fun game.
Yeah, I expect it to. Unlike IUPUI at Purdue Fort Wayne, right?
Yep.
Or is it? Yeah.
Yep. IUPUI is playing in Fort Wayne.
Yeah, that's a 20-point line. Fred, it's kind of crazy.
Dons did have a tough week though. So and IUPUI played. They didn't win, but they played
a little bit closer,
better than they had been.
Yeah. So IUPUI, I guess, is going to be hungry, but PFW is going to be looking to beat somebody up.
Yep.
Get back in this Horizon League race.
Yep.
And Evansville is home against Valpo. Big question is, are they going to have Ben Hummerkaus back?
We don't know.
I think if he's back, I think Evansville wins it, but Valpo's coming off a big win.
Yeah.
And it could go either way here.
Valpo has the momentum.
Yep.
For sure.
And
Valpo is 7-point dogs currently. I don't remember if you said that, but, and again, I said I was only going to give one teaser for it, but we have an entire show talking about Valpo and previewing this game coming out tomorrow on Tuesday, the day before the game. So check that out if you're really interested in diving into Valpo and talking about this game a little bit more in depth.
Or if you just want to listen to us more. And another guy. We got into it. It was a great episode. I mean,
yeah, we had a great conversation with Paul.
He knows a lot about Valpo. He gave probably one of the most interesting answers when I asked him about their 2016 NIT run. The answer was nothing like what I expected it to be, and it was a great answer.
Yeah, it was. Definitely highly recommend checking it out because it was great.
What else, Jaron? So those are all our rivalries, if you want to call them that.
Yeah, I mean, Ball State playing home against Miami, that's a little bit of a rivalry there. The Red Hawks coming to town. Ball State are 1-point favorites. going to be interesting to talk about because, like we said, Ball State's struggling in the MAC currently. They're playing at home, which they don't lose often. They have a couple times in the last few weeks, but good chance to bounce back there.
They need that Eastern Michigan game too.
They're also favored by 1 at Eastern Michigan, which is those are 2. This is an important week, probably the most important week that Ball State has played in the last couple weeks.
It's make or break right here.
Yeah, they need to steal 1 at Eastern and then defend home court with Miami. But big week for them.
Purdue Fort Wayne needs to win at Cleveland State, which is a tough ask, but they need to just don't look past the IUPUI game, handle business, and then go to Cleveland State and try and take that one from them. And Indiana State, you have an opportunity to stay in front in the
Valley.
In the Valley by on the next Sunday, going and playing at Murray State. That is a tough game. Murray State's tough. They're tough at home. You got to go in and beat them if you want to win this conference.
Yeah, for sure. But that's all I have for our 11 in-state folks. You want to tell us about the interesting slate of games from the other 49 states last week?
Yeah, I got one letter for you, Jaron. L. All these teams.
And it's not Louisville.
All these teams need to hold the L because this week we saw number 1, Purdue lose. Number 2, Houston lose. Number 3, Kansas lose. Number 5, Tennessee lose. Number 6, Kentucky lose. Number 7, Arizona lose. Number 9, Oklahoma lose. And we saw number 10, Illinois lose.
All of these were on the road.
Except Illinois. They lost, at home to Maryland.
Yep.
Which is weird. And so
should UConn be number 1?
Maybe.
They're the only top 10 team that didn't lose.
If you want to talk about teams that could be number 1, I think you're talking about
neither, but
Purdue or UConn.
Yeah.
Because
Purdue losing, the next obvious progression would be Houston taking 1, but Houston lost twice.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, well, if Houston lost and Purdue lost, well, Kentucky will Kansas will take number 1. Well, then Kansas took a big loss, and at this point, it's like,
Kansas lost to the team
number 4 and didn't lose, so I guess. But also, Purdue only taking 1 loss and then taking a dominant win. This is a tough week to be an AP voter. It's not like they watch ball anyway, but it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
I mean, this week UConn won at Xavier by 5, which is a good win, and then they won at home against Georgetown. So they had a good win in there. So I think there's definitely a case to say that they should take the number 1 spot. But for narrative purposes, I want Purdue to be number 1 because then you've got number 1 Purdue in Assembly Hall, which would be incredible.
Number 1 Purdue does not often win road games after being ranked number 1. So
here's a fun fact for you. Did you realize this? Matt Painter said after the Nebraska court storm that his freshmen, sophomore, and juniors at Purdue have never lost a road game without a court storm.
Yep.
So the question is, if Indiana wins, do they storm the court for the 3rd year in a row?
I think if Indiana wins, just to, I think it would belittle Purdue even more, is to not storm the court. I think it's more disrespectful to Purdue to not storm the court at this point after a road loss than to storm it.
Just to say it's business as usual. I don't know. I just don't see them not storming the court if they win.
Oh, I don't see it either. But me sitting at home, that's what I want because I think it makes it better. I think it makes it funnier.
Yeah. So if I had an AP vote, I would put UConn number 1.
I would as well.
But I think it's funnier if Purdue stays number 1. But I think you have to reward teams for not taking a loss.
Correct.
This isn't like the NBA where it's just strictly based off record.
Yeah.
Based off resume and everything. So like you have to say, okay, Kansas didn't lose this week, therefore, or not Kansas, UConn, they should move up.
Yep.
But yeah, number 2, Houston lost at Iowa State and
TCU.
at TCU. So
Welcome to the Big 12.
yeah, seriously, this is not the American, Houston. Not the American. Get used to it. What else in the other 49 states?
Rick Pitino said he wants to die every time he loses a game.
Yeah, he said he wanted to jump in the river and
freeze to death.
The sport is better for having Rick Pitino back in
100%.
it. Especially not like it's
on
better
a,
for
on
having
a big stage.
Yeah, at a Power 5 conference.
Yeah.
Or 6, I guess. Power 5 soon.
Yeah.
And Texas lost. Number 25 Texas. Texas shouldn't have been ranked.
This long at least.
Yeah. And like their best win is like Louisville on a neutral. Like
barely.
Yeah. It's not actually their best win, but they barely won that game. That should have been the warning signs.
Yeah.
So they'll finally be unranked. Maybe.
I mean,
they'll probably move up in the polls.
Imagine.
And the last thing is the WCC doesn't go through Spokane anymore. It does not go through Gonzaga. It seems they just lost to Santa Clara. I thought it was going to be St. Mary's year, but St. Mary's has been kind of dookie lately. I don't even know where they are right now. Gonzaga. What's the WCC looking like? St. Mary's, San Francisco, Santa Clara, Gonzaga.
Wow.
St. Mary's is like taking those weird losses, but they're 4-0. San Francisco's 3-0. Santa Clara is 3-1, and Gonzaga is 2-1.
Hey, that makes Purdue Fort Wayne's loss to San Francisco look a little better.
Yeah. I mean, they played them well for 3/4 of the game.
Yeah.
Which tangentially reminds me that if you're Purdue, every resume win you had has become dookie. Not like it's not a good win, but like
right.
You're like, we beat Marquette. Well, Marquette has been kind of bad lately. We beat Gonzaga. Gonzaga is 11-5 now, and they're 4th in the WCC. They beat Tennessee. Tennessee's been holding okay.
Yeah, all right. Still lost last week.
Yeah. Illinois was like the one. They were like, no, we're good. Then they lose at home to Maryland, who sucks.
Yeah.
So
Probably
stop tanking Purdue's resume.
More in there. Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona.
Arizona is not as quality or
still great wins. I'm sure they're still
win against Arizona. Excuse me.
I'm sure they're still quad 1 wins, but still,
yeah,
it's just annoying to see. Next week.
Yeah. So what we're gonna start doing going forward is we're gonna give you a game of the day every day of the week, for the week of the episode.
Yeah. So when you're not locked into your team, maybe your team plays Thursday and you want to just turn on a game on Monday or whatever and be like, what game should I watch? So this is our out of the 49 states, or in the other 49 states, what's the one game a day you should watch if you're going to watch? We should have put the times on here, but we'll do that next time. So our Monday game, our State of Basketball Monday game of the day is Villanova at Marquette. Villanova is really weird. They have big wins. They won the battle for Atlantis, and then they lost to every other team in Philadelphia. And Marquette, Tyler Kolek is shooting like crap, and they just lost their backup point guard to an ACL injury. So not the like level of game we thought it was going to be, but it's still very interesting in the Big East and has some implications there.
Yeah, and our Tuesday game of the day is Samford at Western Carolina. Both teams are sitting at 15-2. Samford just dropped 134 points in a game, and they've got our boy Dallas Graziani. Mm-hmm. So
who did the 7.5?
Yeah, who did the tip against Zach Edey when they played Purdue earlier this season. So a little fun game to watch there.
Yeah, so that one felt random, but when you drop 134 points, we got to keep an eye out on you. Our Wednesday game of the day is Texas Tech at Houston. I think Texas Tech can win that game and not kill Houston's season, but put them
in a bad spot.
Yeah, put them on life support.
That's great.
That's just show that, kind of, what does Mark Titus have, the fraud power rankings? They're on there if they lose this game.
Yeah. And then we've got Thursday game of the day is UT Martin at Morehead State. UT Martin is third, and Morehead State is second in the conference. They're both chasing the undefeated
Western Illinois.
Western Illinois. I was like, I should know this. We looked at it earlier. Western Illinois in the Ohio Valley Conference. So threw that in there because of all of our OVC fans, and
Yeah.
anytime teams at the top of the conference rankings play, it's some implications there. So
Yeah, some of these games, we want to show you some big games on a national stage, but then also some, make you aware of some games that
impact our 11 guys.
Yeah, directly impact, these teams. Like our Friday game of the day is Toledo at Central Michigan. Toledo is 4-0 in the MAC, and Central Michigan is 3-1 in the MAC. I know Ball State's sitting at 0-4 in the MAC, but they are still not out of the race yet. I think they've still got, if you're keeping an eye on the MAC race, Toledo at CMU is one you want to watch.
I'm going to let you talk about Saturday. Tell me about Saturday's game.
Saturday is my favorite game of the week.
I know.
Because you've got Rhode Island at Dayton. You've got Archie Miller going back to his ex school with Dayton. Rhode Island's like 9-8 this year, but they're somehow tied for first in the A10, and Dayton is also tied for first in the A10. So I really like that game. I want to see how that pans out because I expected Dayton to kind of run away with the A10 a little bit, and it would be really funny if Archie Miller came in and won at his old stomping grounds.
And then to not forget about our West Coast viewers and listener, our Sunday game of the day, Oregon at Utah. Little Pac-12 last hurrah. Got to throw them in there because it is the last season of the Pac-12, and a lot of these teams are parting ways. They're going separate conferences next year. So might not. Who knows when the next time we'll see Oregon at Utah after this season? So,
and
Oregon even playing Utah after this.
And unlike the national media, we do talk about teams other than USC with Bronny James. Talk about the other Pac-12 teams.
It would have been funnier if you just didn't bring up USC at all.
But if I would have been like USC and that one freshman they got,
yep.
What's his name? Larry James,
Larry Jameson,
Junior. What else do you have before we get out of here? What are your final words, Jaron?
You see they put a basketball court in Indianapolis International Airport?
Yeah, and I want to play on it.
Can you imagine all of that sounds like a Homeland Security nightmare.
Yeah.
Just a couple of guys playing pickup. Shooters open.
Yeah.
Shot.
I got him. Just the if people aren't playing ball on that court,
I would start if I was flying out of Indianapolis once I found out about them putting that court up, I would travel with a basketball. Even if where I'm going, I'm not even going to touch the basketball. Yeah. I would fly with it just to get run.
If I lived in Indy,
how would you just go to the airport?
You text my friends, hey guys, you a pickup game at the Indy airport?
Because it's in their like lobby area, so you don't have to go. It's before you go through security, so you can just.
You don't have to have a gym membership to play. You can just go hoop, and then afterwards you go and grab some food
in the food court right there. It's in the food court.
Loser pays for winter tickets.
To where?
Wherever you want to
go. high stakes basketball playing in the airport.
Yeah, winner gets a ticket. Loser pays for a winner round trip ticket to whatever the next departing flight is.
Can you imagine like certain flights like, oh, you're group 1, I'm group 5. We'll challenge you to see who boards first.
Yeah.
You just run 5s to see which group they go in ascending order or descending order. Genius.
Here's how everyone wins in this scenario.
You get to play basketball.
Well, all the dads that wake their family up at 3 a.m. for the 10 a.m. flight gets there at 5, hoops for 3 hours while the family over there naps. It's just a bunch of middle-aged white dudes.
That'd be incredible.
I just hope people are getting shots up.
But we buried the lead a little bit. They put the court up because of the NBA All-Star Game being hosted in Indianapolis in February.
Yeah.
So it's not just they didn't just put it up for no reason.
But maybe it'll stay.
I hope they stay it up. Stay it up. Hope they keep it up.
Yeah.
Because it's only right. Like it's the
It
most
just feels right.
Indiana thing.
Yeah.
That should exist.
Be on the lookout tomorrow. So we touched on it a couple of times. We've got a special episode with our friend Paul Oren from the victorybell.com. He covers Valpo athletics, mostly Valpo basketball, but he moved that independent route and is having a ton of fun writing the stories that he wants to write, and seems like he's having a great time with it. So we talked to him about kind of Victory Bell, his website, the actual Victory Bell at Valparaiso. We talked to him about Valpo historically and thoughts on the mascot change. And then we previewed the Valpo Evansville game. So it was a ton of fun. We had a ton of fun with him.
Yeah, no, it was a great time. Remember, be sure to follow us on YouTube, like and subscribe. Any like gets us in the algorithm a little bit more. Any subscriptions, make sure you're notified to hear all of our episodes. We release at least one a week. It looks like we're trending to sometimes put out a special episode occasionally, like Adam just talked about. But follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts. If we are not on that service, let us know. We'll work with you to get our show in front of your desired consumption outlet. But clock is showing quadruple zero, so it's time for us to get out of here. Thanks for checking in with the State of Basketball podcast. See you next week. And remember, in 49 states,
it's just basketball.